Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some more Immortal Empires gameplay, this time checking out the vampire counts and their changes. It's because they've gotten a mini rework, I guess that's probably the best way that we can say it. So we're just going to go over some changes for the faction as a whole. We're not going to be covering Manfred and Ghost as I'm still playing over them, just kind of seeing what my general thoughts are still. However, the vampire counts have had some changes as their factions overall, so the focus is going to be mostly on Vlad and Isabella, who are now the sole legendary lords in the same faction for the territory of Sylvania. Keep in mind that when you pick one as a legendary lord, the other one becomes a legendary hero. And that's the first thing we're going to talk about. So here I've decided to pick Vlad as a legendary lord because I kind of like Vlad in general. So Isabella instantly is in-game as a legendary hero. She's already at the beginning of your campaign, and really the only thing that changes is the fact that she has access to the generic hero skills rather than a generic blue line, which would focus around, campaign movement, reducing upkeep and all that. But everything else, yeah, she keeps a unique skill line, she keeps everything else, it's exactly what you'd expect, and the reason why I'm actually covering this in this video is because some people were a little bit worried. I'm honestly not too sure why, but hopefully this just allows you to calm down a little bit and experience everything else. She's still going to be a powerhouse, she's still very, very strong, and yeah. But it is important to note that they're a lot more viable when they're together. Keep in mind that yes, this is the Warhammer Fantasy power couple, so as you can see, they'll be able to get a lot more HP if in the same army. This is also the same when it comes to Isabella, so nothing really changes other than that, but you want to keep them together, and it's more of a lore-friendly thing. Well, yeah, obviously you do get the nice bonus on HP, but yeah, I mean, if you want to roleplay and all that, keep them together, let them do a lot of damage, it's very worth it, plus you get two characters together with their own unique skill line, which makes them very, very potent on the battlefield. In fact, I must say that together, there's a lot of damage output, that's for sure. Anyways, let's start moving on because this isn't a dedicated video to them alone. So, vampire counts have had a few changes, and this is one of them. Units have been moved around when it comes to recruitment. This is so you can bring in some later game units as a more viable thing. And you can see that here. So if you're used to playing the vampire counts, you're already used to the changes. If you haven't played vampire counts a lot, well, really, it's not going to bother you. Just go into the game, enjoy. There's so many units that you can play with, because the vampire count roster is actually quite good. And you'll start to see some other changes within the faction, which will allow you to experiment more with armies, which is something that was kind of needed. Back then, in Warhammer 2, it was literally just skeletons and zombie stacks, which, yeah, worked out alright, but was a little bit boring, I must admit. It was just too much of the same, and what you can see here is that comes into effect with the new tech trees. So the format for the tech trees has stayed the same, nothing really changes there. The only thing is that the techs have changed a little bit, so you're not getting the free skeletons or the free zombies anymore, which I know was something that a lot of people got angry for. However, they're being boosted up in terms of strength now, and money isn't really too hard to come by. I mean, I've been playing a campaign with Vlad, got to turn around 150 or so, and yeah, not so many issues. What you will notice is your stuff does get a little bit tankier as you start progressing. You'd have also noticed raised dead pool capacity. We'll talk about that a little bit later as it's a little bit updated, but generally everything's okay. The zombies are still going to be your main target unit, especially as you can get them with Vanguard. Doesn't matter too much with Vlad, but this is for all armies, so yeah, kind of works out. But generally the bonuses from tech are a lot better, increasing campaign movement range, hell, even giving you regeneration to the Crypt Horrors and Crypt Ghouls, which I think is actually kind of needed, because that makes them a little bit more viable. I don't really recall Warhammer 2 using them much, unless I ended up confederating with faction and had them anyway. But yeah, a lot better bonuses. I'm just scrolling through everything just in case. You can stop pretty much wherever you wish, but yeah, I did notice the bonuses. I did notice it a lot better. There is definitely more of a reason to just kind of think where you're going, depending on your playstyle, rather than just, I'm going to go straight for the full zombies, full skeletons, and then go for everything else, which I think works out quite well in that retrospect. It's one of these odd things where yeah, the vampire counts still need an update. I will be very honest with you. They still need a proper rework just to add them a lot more flavor. But this is definitely a good push in the right direction. There is some really odd tech, which I've RCA and maybe they're looking into. I'm not too sure if this is a bug or something. But like armor piercing, weapon damage +1 for Felbat units is weird because it's literally +1, you know? And some of them which just give you extra allegiance points, which I guess could be useful. I just don't generally use the whole ally system too much, which I generally should because it is pretty good. And yeah, keep in mind that you still get your access to your free blood kiss, so that's perfectly fine. It's in the Lemian book one, which is obviously kind of useful considering the blood kisses have changed a little bit when it comes to the effects from the lords. So the more blood kisses you can get, the better it works out for you. So hopefully the tech's a little bit better for you guys. I know Vampire Count players have been hoping for a little bit of an update just to make them a little bit more fun. It's just how it's going to be until we get a proper rework, but keep in mind that we are expecting more characters in the future, so that should happen. Now, there's something that I forgot to mention, which is that Isabella does start off with her unique item as soon as you begin the game. So, yeah, I know some people were kind of worried that, yeah, no quest battle and all that. This isn't a Vlad and Isabella dedicated video. It's just the case that I know some people were curious about these things, and it's best to have that here in the video, so your questions are answered, pretty much. So one thing that's changed, rather interestingly enough, is Raise Dead. As you can see, it looks the same, and it does generally work the same, but you'll also have a bit of a counter. So the best way to explain this is very similar to that of the Warriors of Chaos rework, where there's a chance of refilling this bar, in a sense. So you can instantly get a full army if you so wish. And I think that works out quite well, and you can upgrade this with certain things, like, say, for example, tech. So you could have loads and loads and loads of zombies just waiting to get summoned in if you need an army very quickly. So as you do battles, it still works in the exact same way that you used to, where you'll be able to get more units. So there's the Crypt Horrors or even some Grave Guard, and they'll even have the chance of kind of filling out. This is when you get the whole big battle thing, you know, it's the claw icon on the ground. And yeah, that gives you more incentive to fight bigger battles. All in all, it's very much the same, and there's nothing really too difficult to wrap your head around. You will see it kind of tick over sometimes. That depends on certain events, certain battles that have been spawned, but there's no restrictions. As far as I've seen, I've just been casually playing, and yeah, everything works out quite well. You will want to get more capacity though, because that kind of helps out with, you know, just having some in the bank warriors that you can instantly summon just to defend yourself. You still won't be able to summon these if you're getting sieged and all that, so don't think you can abuse it. But this definitely means that you can spawn armies more often, depending on what money you have. Keep in mind that, yes, money is still a big thing here, so you're gonna need to kind of work on your economy a little bit if you want to have armies all over the place. But by late game, I did have a lot of armies just kind of rampaging everywhere, and it was kind of fun. We have to talk about Blood Kisses now. The traits gained have changed a little bit, so we're going to go over each of the ones. First up with the Blood Dragons, you can see as they get stronger and stronger, and how it works is that by the third one, you'll have unit experience gain per turn plus 100 for all armies, Raise Dead pool capacity plus 2 for Blood Knight units in owned provinces, and weapon strength plus 15% for cavalry units in all armies. So if you want a nice theme army, that's a good one to go for. If we move on to the Von Carsteins now, again very similar. By the time that you get up to the third lord, this will require a decent amount of blood kisses. You'll have casualty replenishment plus 10% for all armies, which, yeah, very, very good. Control plus 5 for all provinces, again, beautiful. And then obviously access to Sylvanian crossbowmen and Sylvanian handgunners. Yeah, not much has changed here, though. The province one is fantastic, especially as you start deciding, I'm going to go take the fight to chaos. Time to look at the Limian bloodline. So by the time that we get 3 legendary lords, this will be the bonuses. Diplomatic relations plus 30 with Empire, Kislev, Cathay, and Bretonia, basically all human nations at the moment, or at least at the time of recording this video. Character experience gain plus 20% for all characters, very, very useful. And campaign line of sight, subsequent turn, is plus 150% for all characters. Again, very, very useful depending if you're attacking certain locations. As extra line of sight will be quite beneficial to you to kind of plan ahead on how you're going to start certain invasions. If we look to the Necrotic vampires, so the bonuses are Winds of Magic, Power Reserve, Capacity plus 15 for all armies, very useful considering, well, you're a spellcaster base force. Research rate plus 25%. This is also the first one that you do get, and generally it's the first one that I unlock just to kind of get the tech tree out of the way, and that allows for more bonuses. And finally, Upkeep minus 10% for all armies, very, very useful if you want more and more legions out there. So yeah, pretty good all around, and really no complaints. I'd say that this one is probably one of the better ones at the start, but obviously that very much depends on your given playstyle. And then if we look towards the Strigoi, which is my favourite bloodline, we get the following bonuses. Raise dead pool capacity plus 2 for Crypt Ghoul units in own provinces, ambush success chance plus 20% for all armies, very useful if you want to be a bit more sneaky. Raise dead pool capacity plus 2 for Crypt Horror units, and that's again in own provinces, and Vampiric Corruption plus 5 for all provinces. Again, very useful to know because, well, you know, corruption has been a tad changed over the years, especially with Warhammer 3. Something to note here, which I'm not sure if this affects every lord, as I've not really played with every faction just yet, is that you'll instantly get the prompt to do the quest battle for your items. It's not like, oh, go raid this place, oh, go sack this place, blah, 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 blah. This is literally, I just dinged up with Vlad, and the quest battle appeared, which is very useful, because, let's be honest, some quest lines were just absolutely annoying, so I'm very much happy about this. Alright, so before we end this video, and before I give my final thoughts on the vampires, let's talk about Heinrich and Krell. So, a little change has come into effect, where Krell is now a permanent summon. So Heinrich's skills more focus on, well, pretty much everything else. There is one skill available at rank 12 which just makes him stronger, makes Krell stronger, and I think that works out quite well in general because Krell kind of needed a bit of a facelift. But yeah, I'm actually quite happy about that because, well, you know, it's still not what we wanted. You know, we wanted Krell to be a legendary hero, but now he's essentially a free summon. So if you have an army with Heinrich, 20 stack, you just summon him, and yeah, free 21 stack. Permanent unit, by the way, again. So yes, I'm fully aware that I've not talked about Manfred and Ghost just yet, but I'm still playing through them. Keep in mind, as you guys are aware, I've had to deal with some family matters, and that's taken me away from the PC for a while. It's just one of these things. But they'll likely get dedicated videos anyway. This is just the generic changes coming towards the vampire counts, and I think everything works out quite well. It definitely ties them over until a future DLC with just the final rework in a sense, just to make them more in line with Game 3 races and so on. But I definitely think that this is a good step in the right direction. They do have a lot better utility. You can use a lot more units. It's not just skeletons and zombies now, which kind of makes me want to play them more. Generally, I think they're a lot more fun now, and that's just my playthroughs. Obviously, you and I could differ with that, and I'm still not 100% too sure about the no longer free zombies and no longer free skeletons thing, but it's decent. I still get them. They're relatively cheap as it stands. Having new start positions for the vampires with Manfred and Ghost is quite good. Yes, I've not showed this in this video, but I can acknowledge them. As, yeah, you know, everyone kind of started in the same location, which was horrendously boring for a lot of players, as you wouldn't really have another reason to play the vampires again. It was just the same campaign over and over, depending on who you started with. It's just the same thing. So now, you know, you've got a character in the Southlands, you've got a character pretty much in the border of the Mountains of Morning Grand Cafe. It gives you playability, replayability. It's obviously very, very important for a Total War game. So yeah, and eventually we will get more lords, so we just have to wait for that. But so far, so good. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the vampire count changes in the comments below. There's going to be a load of videos coming out. I am horrendously tired as I'm playing catch up after a week away. But don't you worry, I've got you guys covered, and there's going to be loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of content.